Can you communicate? Do you think you can communicate? Do you believe you can communicate? What do you think communication is? So, in my experience, a lot of people think communication is talking. So, for example, with a romantic relationship, they will say, my partner never listens to me. I try and talk to them. I try and talk to them. Or they will say, my partner won't open up to me and talk. But you see, communication is much, much bigger than that. And I've learned this throughout my life. And I've learned it the hard way. So, real communication is learning to understand the person that you need to communicate with on the most consistent basis. When we're dealing specifically with key people in our life, the people that we will have the most intense communication with, or the people that we need to have the most communication with, like a partner, we've got to be able to figure out how to communicate. And talk is not it. Have you ever said, and have you had it said to you, because I know I certainly have, and I've probably said it too, you're not listening to me. And when a person says that to you, it's not that you're not listening to them. What they're really saying is, you're not agreeing with me. And there's a big difference there. And so the answer to that is, well, I am listening to you, but I just don't agree with you. And so that's a major point of contention. But what I learned throughout the years is, if I wanted to avoid unnecessary conflict, if I wanted to suffer less, if I wanted to be cause less pain to others, I had to figure out how they communicate and pay attention to it. And so if I want to explain this to them, if I want to express this point to them, how do they hear? How do they receive information? If I say it in this way, are they going to throw those doors up? Or are they going to be open? So how will they accept information? How does it need to be delivered to them personally, individually? And then also it's timing. Okay, is this the right time to bring this subject up? Read the situation. No, not at this moment, because I'm not going to get a great result. I shall wait until the timing is better. How do I communicate? Do I go in with all guns blazing, you? Or is it me? You do this. Me, I feel hurt. You've hurt me. This is what I want. This is what I need. We've all done it. We have all done it. Me included. But the purpose of living another day is to grow wiser. And wisdom does not come with age alone. Wisdom alone does not guarantee, the passing of time alone does not guarantee wisdom. We have to look for wisdom. We have to be willing to become wiser. It has to be a choice. Because you will hear people say again and again, why is it always me? Why does this always happen to me? Yeah, why does it always happen to you? What is that about? Is life trying to tell you something? Are you repeating patterns? Are you doing the same stuff again and again? So, if we ever catch ourselves saying that, why does it always happen to me? We have to say, okay, right, so maybe I need to change something here. So even communicating with ourselves is really important. How do we talk to ourselves? Do we beat ourselves up all the time? Well, most of us will criticize ourselves to one degree or another. I particularly pick holes in my kickboxing, which drives my sensei mad. And that's because I have a higher expectation of myself. You can do better. But on the other hand, if I did that to another student, they'd feel really miserable. So I'm mindful of it, and I'm trying to change that. well, I am changing it. I'm not just trying, I am changing it. I'm working on it. But that's just one small example. Taking responsibility for our own actions, communicating with ourselves in that way. So we're saying to ourselves, look, you know, you could have handled that better. You could have responded better. You could have, you know, you could have been a bit better with that person. Or we could say to ourselves, oh, we're such victims. Why did they do that to us? Why won't they listen to us? Why do people always do this to me? So it's our inner communication, our inner dialogue is going to have a huge impact upon A, the way in which we feel, and B, the way in which we behave, and C, the way in which we proceed. Okay, so communication is key in this life. And even two human beings that really care about each other and they've been around each other a lot, there can still be misunderstandings because we can still assume, I'm assuming you're thinking that. That's happened to me loads of times, and I've done it loads of times. I've had my partner say to me, yeah, well, you did that because you were thinking this. And I'm going, no, you're completely wrong. I wasn't thinking that at all. And I've done it myself. And so now I do double check myself. I think, hang on a minute. I'm assuming that person, that's their motivation. But what if I'm wrong? So how do we resolve that? We can ask directly. We could just ask a couple of subtle questions. We could just watch a little bit and observe. We could just even say, I might be wrong, so I'm going to remain open-minded. So communication is the secret to greater peace of mind in this world and less conflict. So communication is not all about just talking at the other person and expecting them to listen. And we can't be great communicators when we're young. We can't be. We haven't learned how to be a great communicator. But we should be learning as we get older. There is no excuse for somebody, I don't know what age, I don't know where this the right age would be. But there's no excuse for, even as we're going through our 30s, there's no excuse not to be learning this stuff. And unfortunately, in the modern world, the way it appears, it seems like the 20s are the new teens and the 30s are the new 20s. And so people are, not everybody, but largely speaking, they're more emotionally immature than they used to be because there's been this shift. And even sometimes 40s are the new 30s, and not in a good way. Not in a good way. So learning to communicate requires observation. It requires a reasonably decent attitude. A caring attitude. I don't want to fall out with this person. I don't want to be in conflict with this person. I don't want them to hurt them. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want them to hurt me. And that is, so that's why communication is so important. And understanding as well, ladies, how men communicate, because this is one of the things I'm fond of saying. Men will tend to communicate their truth through their actions way more than their words. Now, we all do. We all say actions speak louder than words, don't we? But with men, it's even more true because we women talk. That's how, you see women together going, how do you feel? You don't see men saying that to each other. So I know that, and I recognise this especially with my partner. So just say, I remember, this is a few years ago when we used to have some pretty juicy rows. But I think there were certain things that were a bit of a turning point for me that clicked in my head. And one of them was this. It's a funny story. So there was the long back garden and we'd had a row and I was going, and he'd actually gone down the garden. There was woods behind our garden. So it was a medium-sized fence. To get away from me, he jumped over the fence and went into the woods and cleared off. So I'd started a bonfire burning some rubbish. What I didn't realise was in that rubbish was an aerosol can, and I threw it on the fire. And this is after he'd jumped over the fence and gone off, disappeared into the woods to get away from me. And it exploded. And within seconds I heard rustle, 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 and he appeared over the fence. So you see, And I remember thinking, yeah, you're as mad as hell, but you still care, and you've come back to make sure I'm all right. And I've seen that before. I've seen him, say, and he's in a right grump. So I've learned in the past when he's done that, do you know what? I'm not going to debate this or argue with it. I'll let him burn through it in his own way. I'll come up and do something. And after a short period of time, he appears with a cup of tea. And do you see what I'm saying? So you see the communication there. Now, I'm not saying that if there's something really major that needs to be talked about, that, okay, we need to talk about it, and we might need a mediator, we might need an outside source to help us. I'm talking about general, consistent, regular communication here. And so it's just food for thought. Are you frustrated? Do you feel that you're never being listened to? Well, you might be with somebody who's just not going to listen, and they're not going to communicate, they're not going to be open in any way, shape or form. That might be the case, in which case you just stop wasting your time trying to communicate with that person. And if necessary, get away from them. But on the other hand, could you improve your communication? Could you? Could you be more aware? Could you pay attention to the details? Could you see when you're pushing somebody that bit too far with your communication and they're going to lose their temper, and step back until maybe a better time, until things are calmer? Can you figure out what's the best way to get through to that person? Because what will make them feel okay enough to listen, to be open, to listen, to respond? Because we're either reacting to life or we're responding. I've got a video on that very subject. So communication is a fascinating subject, and it's one we can always learn more about, and it's one that most people don't even give a thought to. But maybe now you can, and maybe things in your life can change for the better. Check out my website, the link is below. Bye bye.